like to reconvene the Board of Governors for our May meeting. For our first order of business, we have a special recognition. We took an action yesterday to recognize a past president of our Board of Governors and a longtime leader within our system. And I'd like to call forward for recognition our dear colleague, Lance Izumi.
I want to take this opportunity to read a portion of the resolution that was passed yesterday by the board commending Lance Izumi. It says, whereas Lance T. Izumi was a distinguished member of the Board of Governors of the California Community Colleges, and whereas Lance Izumi held the position of board president from 2008 and 9 and oversaw the California Community Colleges with great wisdom and ability during his tenure, whereas Lance Izumi, driven by a strong desire to help students, approved the groundbreaking recommendations of the task force and pushed for passage of the Student Success Act of 2012, all of which have led to creation of programs and reforms that have improved completion outcomes, such as the Associate Degree for Transfer, Salary Surfer, Priority Enrollment, and Enhanced Basic Skills Instruction. Whereas Lance Izumi has served as a commissioned officer in the California State Military Reserve, a commitment exemplifying his extraordinary dedication to public service. Whereas Lance Izumi has also made further contributions to the United States Armed Forces in his roles of president of the advisory board of the U.S. Army's Sacramento Recruiting Battalion and member of the executive committee of the advisory board of the U.S. Army's Los Angeles Recruiting Battalion. Whereas Lance Izumi has served the public in several other notable roles, such as speechwriter for Governor George Deukmejian and U.S. Attorney General Edwin Meese, and assisting the state legislature with developing a master plan for education. Whereas Lance Izumi should be commended for his leadership, dedication, initiative, resourcefulness, persistence, enthusiasm, and professionalism in furthering the mission of California's community colleges. Now be it therefore resolved that the Board of Governors of California Community Colleges, led by President Jeffrey L. Baum, congratulate Lance for his many years of excellent, dedicated service to the California Community College system. Congratulations, Lance.
Say something.
Well, I'm overwhelmed by that resolution, Bryce. Thank you so much to all my colleagues here for passing that. After 11 years as a member of the Board of Governors, I realized that these years have been the best years of my life. To be on this board with such great people, not only my immediate present colleagues here, but also the many colleagues who I have served with over this more than a decade. And not only the personal relationships that I made, but also the great work that Bryce alluded to, that we all were able to do as a team, everybody rowing in the same direction. And with the chancellors, not only Bryce, but his predecessors, Jack Scott, Diane Woodruff, and all the staff here, who I've had such a great time working with, and who have been such a great support to members of the board. And I think that when I look back on the 11 years that I've spent as a member of the board, and during my terms as president, that looking at how it was then and looking at how it is now, how much better things are for not only the system, but for all the students and all the members of the community of community colleges that I've had the pleasure to work with. And so I want to thank everybody for their graciousness and their assistance during my time on the board. Again, it's been one of the greatest honors I've ever had to serve with all of you and for all of you. And so I look forward to continuing my association in the future. I would also be remiss if I didn't also mention my wife, April, who is here today, and has been my greatest support. So thank you all very much for this great honor. I am overwhelmed, and I look forward to continuing our association in the future for the betterment of our colleges and for all our students. Thanks very much. Oh, okay. That's right. All right. Okay.
Very good.
I'll allow some board member comments, and I'll just make a few real quick. Is just Lance was the first president of the board that I ever had the privilege of working with, and always set an example, as you just saw, of graciousness, but also passionate leadership. And I was fortunate to have him as an example to look up to as I started my service on this board. And Lance, you set a wonderful example for all of us to devote ourselves to as we serve on this board together. Debbie?
Well, thank you. When I started on the board 10 years ago, Lance was someone who was a mentor for me, so thank you so much. He's a very smart person in this field, in the political world, in the education world. He's a very, very nice person, and because I am also a spouse, I enjoyed meeting his spouse and that she was able to come to social events, so that was a treat. You are my friend, and you will always be my friend. Thank you so much.
Member Baca?
Yeah, I want to add the same, and thank you very much for your long tenure on the board, and I want to wish you and April the very best. I'm very much looking forward to, if it all works out, to work with you on the foundation, so we'll continue to interact, which I'm very, very grateful to be able to do. But thank you again very much for your involvement, your leadership, all of the great stuff that you've done over the years. Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you. We'll now move on to our next item, 3.5 on the agenda. It is another wonderful celebration, and the only thing that could make it better is if our colleague Danny Hawkins could be here for this recognition. Danny represents the classified staff on our Board of Governors, and unfortunately became ill to the flu, but I said he was actually doing us a favor by protecting us from the bug himself. And it's the generous thing, kind of guy that Danny is looking out for the rest of us. But this, he's a champion of this recognition, and I turn it over to the Chancellor for this.
Thank you, President Baum, members of the board. It's really a pleasure to represent the board in making these presentations today. And unfortunately, the president of the foundation, Keitha Mills, is also ill and unable to be here. So I do want to acknowledge these awards are presented by the foundation, and the Classified of the Year award is supported through a grant from the foundation. And each of the recipients today will also receive a $500 cash award and commemorative plaque. And so I'm going to call these colleagues up one at a time and ask them to come up, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. We're going to give them the award and acknowledge them with a photograph. So let me first welcome and ask you to congratulate Rochelle Franco from the Los Rios Community College District. Rochelle is an admissions and records evaluator and degree auditor at Folsom Lake College and has been with the district for 17 years. She attended Folsom Lake College's El Dorado Center, earning an associate degree in general education transfer, and then transferred to Chapman University to complete a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership. Following graduation, she worked for 5 years as a temporary classified employee at the college in financial aid, assessment, and admissions, and then she progressed rapidly until she reached the position she ultimately holds today. She served on the college's curriculum committee for the past 12 years and continually advocated for students and provides advice and counsel on ways to facilitate student completion. Rochelle's background as a community college student and graduate and her insightful awareness of the barriers to student success have made her an invaluable part of the team at Folsom Lake College. Rochelle, congratulations. I'd like to now invite to the front Donnie Jean Pierce from Desert Community College. Donnie Jean Prince is a Veterans Resource Specialist and has served the district for 36 years. She has helped veteran students from a variety of backgrounds achieve their educational goals. In a given day, Donnie will handle the varied educational needs of veterans from the wars in Vietnam, Iraq, and in Afghanistan. She has a keen sense of the needs and struggles of student veterans and directs them to college programs and services that will serve them best. Donnie always offers our veterans continued support from their first day of college through to graduation. Her work has been vital in providing student veterans with the tools, knowledge, and support required to graduate and improve their financial and social well-being. Donnie Jean Prince. And now I'd like to ask to come forward Kelly Ramos from Contra Costa Community College District. Kelly is a minority retention specialist and has been with the district for 6 years. She exemplifies the mission of the California Community Colleges through her passion for empowering students to transform their lives and reach their academic goals. In every position she has held, she has demonstrated a strong work ethic focused on providing students the resources and support they need to achieve their dreams. She loves to collaborate across campus departments to provide solutions that result in the largest positive impact on students. She brings the classified perspective to campus shared governance committees and works with other constituency groups in order to promote change and enhance the educational experience of students. This exemplifies in her collaborative work with faculty to develop the Hub, which was commended in the college's recent accreditation report. Kelly Ramos. And please join me in congratulating Vance Manakis from Ventura County Community College District. Vance is an athletic trainer and has served the district for 33 years. He's always the first to volunteer to assist on special projects in his department, such as the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies and fundraisers. Vance is fully committed to the health of his athletes and to the care, prevention, and rehabilitation of athletic injuries. He has developed rehabilitation programs for both students and staff under the auspices of a team physician and developed emergency protocols for the athletic training department. He regularly communicates with physicians, coaches, and college administrators regarding the total health care needs of student athletes. He's a founding member of the Bylaws Committee of the California Community College Athletic Trainers Association, and in 2012 was inducted to the California Community College Athletic Trainers Association Hall of Fame. Vance Manakis.
Looking at one camera at a time. All right, smile.
Want to get one with just the
Congratulations.
honorees? We can do one with just the honorees.
Hey, now I don't want you stuck against that wall. Come over. Come over. All right. Now you look like it. Go back. Get to here. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations again.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, Dan ready? Dan?
Oh, yeah, Dan.
Or are we doing Dan or Van? We'll go on to the next item of the agenda. Under your binders, item 3.6, an update on the May revise from the governor. And he gave us a preview of it yesterday when he was here. Chancellor?
Thank you, President Baum, members of the board. It is a pleasure to follow up on the governor's comments yesterday about frankly, the best budget California community colleges have seen in a couple of decades. And so our man on the street who's been working directly with the Department of Finance over these past several months and is responsible in part for the way the money gets allocated, and that's very important to us. So, Vice Chancellor Troy, give the board an update, please.
Yes, thank you, Chancellor Harris, President Baum, and members of the board. First off, I'm not completely convinced I'm going to top the governor yesterday, so I'll try to do what I can. But you know, this is very much the second act after Governor Brown comes. We received very, very good news at May Revision, as outlined in the agenda item I provided the board this morning. We already had a very good budget year with the January proposal. We've seen a very healthy increase in the state economy. Revenues are up by and large thanks to Proposition 30. Because of the interaction with those revenues of Proposition 30 and the way the Prop 98 calculation acts, a lot of the new revenues coming to the state, in fact, most of the new revenues coming to the state, serve to increase the Proposition 98 guarantee. So virtually all the new revenues that are coming into the state right now are going toward that guarantee, which funds K-14 education, and so community colleges are in a very good position to benefit, therefore, for that increase in revenues. As the year went on, after the January budget came out, we were following the cash flow into the state treasury, and it confirmed our perceptions that the revenues were going to be even higher than what the governor had estimated, not only at the time of the budget, when the budget was passed last June, but even in addition to what he had proposed in January. And indeed, as we got to May revision, we saw that that was the case. And again, with that interaction with the Proposition 98 guarantee, it's led to more good news for the California community colleges, which I'm happy to report to you today. Before I get into some of the details of the May revision proposals, I did want to make a couple of broad comments and note that we're certainly appreciative of these new revenues. We think that this really reflects the governor's view, and indeed the state's view, that education is, for so many of our citizens, the path out of poverty. We providing open admission at low rates. We provide we have fee waivers for about 45% of our students. We are that path out of poverty for so many of our students. So many of our people in our state. We prepare the workforce to stave against future recessions. So we think the governor's increases reflect the importance of our system in maintaining a healthy economy for the state. We do note that we are still not yet fully recovered from the hits that we took during the economic downturn. Our colleges lost, in terms of foregone COLAs, about $1 billion worth of operational cost. And even with this May revision, we're still about $750 million short on that. So we still have some work to go on this, but there's no question that this year is a very, very positive step in the right direction for the colleges and for our state, I believe. Turning to page 2 of the agenda, you can see there's quite a long list of additions and changes that the governor proposes as part of May revision. I will not speak to each and every one of them today, unless you have questions about some of the ones I don't address. But I will go over some of the highlights. First off, the governor proposes $75 million in an effort to increase the amount of full-time faculty in our system. We're very supportive of this proposal and of the methodology the governor uses to do so. He proposes to divide districts into quintiles based on where they are in terms of their percentage of full-time faculty. So the money would go to every district per FTS, but the lower you are in terms of the amount of full-time instruction, you would have more requirements to use that money to hire faculty than you would if you're at the higher end of the scale. Everyone would increase, but the obligation to increase would vary depending on where you are right now in terms of your percentage of full-time hiring. We think that's a very fair way to treat the proposal. The governor proposes almost $142 million increase to the base operating, restore base operating expenses for the colleges. He proposed $125 million for that in January, so this brings us to a total of about $267 million. Again, this is very important for the reason I mentioned earlier. We've had our purchasing power lost through this lack of foregone COLAs during the economic downturn. And also looking ahead, we've got these looming obligations in terms of increases in the PERS and STRS obligations. So our districts need discretionary dollars in order to prepare themselves to make those payments. The governor also proposes about $275 million in additional funds to pay down prior year mandate obligations. That brings the total, when you consider the January number, up to $626 million to pay down those obligations. The way that would go out again is per FTS. So that would for not every district claims as aggressively as others do. We think it's fair to send it up per FTS because they're all subject to the same requirements. So we don't want to penalize districts just because they don't have the staffing or wherewithal administratively to make all the claims that they're entitled to. So we're appreciative of that formula. The governor provides a $148 million increase to fund deferred maintenance. Again, that's a good investment for our state. We've tracked our obligations in that area as up to about $1 billion. Investments in this area help maintain those facilities and maintain the lifespan of those facilities. So that's a good investment. The governor has a one-time proposal for basic skills. He proposes $60 million for that, and those are grants to districts to implement evidence-based models of placement remediation and student support that aids the progress and success basic skills students. This is a new proposal to us. We're trying to take a look at the details and see if this works well for our districts. There's been some feedback that we've heard from some stakeholders that it might be better to do something per FTS to ensure that everyone gets a share of the funds. We do, of course, have basic skills needs all across the state, not just for the districts that are prepared to write a very good grant today. So that's something that we'll be looking at as the legislature takes their view of the budget going forward. We're pleased that the governor proposes a $15 million increase for the institutional effectiveness partnership. That will allow us to provide additional technical assistance to districts as they're going through so many changes. They've been asked to do so many new things in the recent years, including the baccalaureate degrees, online education, student success, the 1440 transfer degrees. There's so much going on in our system. I think that this puts us in a good position to put guidelines out there, disseminate best practices, and help with technical assistance in developing those important reforms. So we're very excited about that increase. The governor does fund the COLA for certain categorical programs, which was not proposed in January. So it's EOPS, DSP&S, CalWORKS, and the child care tax bailout will receive a COLA. So we're pleased with that. I'll turn to page 3 for some of the other updates. The COLA did go down. That is a federal factor. It's a technical adjustment. It was thought to be it was estimated to be 1.58% in January. The more up-to-date estimate is that it's down to 1.02%. So that is a reduction in funds for the COLA of about $31 million. We've heard some complaints from the districts about this. I think that is a fairly significant change between January and May, and I know that's a key bargaining issue for a lot of faculty. They were looking forward to that 1.58% COLA. So we've heard some feedback about that, but again, it is a statutory calculation, and that's the proposal at the time, is to fund that statutory calculation. Another significant adjustment is that the governor proposes more funds to restore access to the system. In January, he proposed a 2% increase. In May, he's up to 3%. So this is a robust figure. As we look at the data over the past couple of years in terms of the increases, we do see evidence that districts are ramping up their offerings. Last year, they increased about 1.25%. So far this year, it looks like they're close to 2%. So it does appear that the growth is on an upward trend. Districts are able to get the word out through their outreach campaigns that were, after years of reductions, were open for business again. And their districts are able to ramp up the hiring, get the staffing in to support increased course sections. So it's certainly an aggressive number, but I think it's one that we can meet, and we're supportive of it at this time. A couple of other policy changes in the budget, I think, of particular importance to, I know, members of this board and to our community broadly, is that I don't know how many are familiar with the Renewing Communities Initiative. This is an initiative to enhance offerings for related to inmate education. So it's a Pathways project to get inmates to from where they are now to post-secondary education. It's an activity engaged in by the Ford Foundation and other funders. It's shown to be successful in other states like New Jersey, Michigan, and North Carolina. They'd like to make that investment in California. What they're looking for is a 3-to-1 match. They were ponying up $50 million in one-time donations, and they would like the state to match $5 million to show the state's commitment to that. The Department of Finance offers an alternative approach to the match, where he encourages the Chancellor's office to go out and find districts willing to put up their own local funds to meet the match. I think with that, we're going to be seeking changes to that proposal, because it's our understanding with the funders is that is not good enough to get them to meet the match. They want to see the state earmark the dollars for the commitment. So we are going to work with the legislature to try to modify that proposal so that we can draw down those $15 million. Additionally, last year, the federal government approved a very significant change to higher education law through the Federal Veterans Access, Choice, and Accountability Act. We call it VACA. And essentially what that does is that would disapprove education programs from offering GI Bill benefits if they charge qualified veterans who are non-residents non-resident tuition. So what the governor proposes to do, we're in support of this. We sent out guidance to our districts that is conforming with this change, is that it would allow districts to change their policies so that they would not have to charge this qualifying veterans the non-resident tuition. They could charge them the resident tuition, and they could be funded normally through the apportionment as a resident would be. So this is a hold harmless provision for our districts, and it does ensure that our veterans in our state will have access to those GI Bill benefits. So we're very supportive of that change. Additionally, there's as you know, there's been in January a very significant proposal to modify the way the state funds adult education in our state. The governor makes some very significant changes to that proposal in May. In January, the governor proposed $500 million for this purpose. The general concept is that K-12 and community college districts would form locally into consortia that would devise plans for serving the need of adult education in that region, and figure out locally which entity would be how much funds each entity would receive, who would have responsibility for different obligations for service, report back to our office and to the superintendent for approval. It's very much a local control proposal that encourages collaboration among community college districts and K-12 and collaboration at the state level between our office and the superintendent as well. The governor at that time proposed a 1 year, I'll call it a hold harmless, for K-12 agencies. So in the first year of funding, dollars would go to K-12 districts that were at the level that they had been funding adult education in 2012-13. Thereafter, the funds were to go out on a more of a need-based calculation. So regardless of what you were spending before, we were going to assess the state's need and divide the money based on that need. At this point, the governor has modified the proposal to more or less lock in those funds to those existing funds to the K-12 districts over time. So we are concerned that this will make it more difficult to actually implement the reforms of the AB 86 legislation that districts have worked so hard on in the last 2 years, that this would eat up a lot of the funds available for the reform, and probably freeze out some of our districts from being able to access some of these funds. So that's a proposal that we're looking at very seriously. There's some other technical proposals in the legislation in regard to deadlines that our office has to follow that we're concerned about. So we are working with the Department of Finance and legislative staff to try to modify those proposals as we go forward. Again, in conclusion, this is a very, very busy week in Sacramento. It's an interesting way the state does budgets. The governor proposes his budgets in January. Very little happens for several months, and then May revision comes, the revenues get updated, the universe changes, and within a week, the two committees are trying to close out their budget for the year. So that is what is going on right now in Sacramento. My understanding is that the Senate in particular is going to try to close out the community college budget this afternoon. So as soon as I'm done with this proposal, I'm going to run out of here, I beg your pardon, to try to advocate for our system in their deliberations. So things do happen very quickly, but that is the next step in the process. The two houses will take their shot at the budget. They'll form a conference committee in the next weeks to form a kind of a three-way negotiation between the Senate, the Assembly, and the Governor's office to craft a final budget. And we do expect that they will indeed approve a final budget before July 1 this year. And I will keep you updated on what changes occur. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Troy. Before we go to discussion, I turn to the Chancellor.
I want to thank Dan and actually all the vice chancellors who've spent a lot of time over the last several months working with finance and the administration in the crafting of this revision. But we wouldn't be doing our job if I didn't remind all of us that, as Dan told you, there's been a tremendous erosion of purchasing power in all of our colleges over the last several years with the lack of COLA. And they are facing tremendous oncoming retiree costs in excess of $400 million. And so, as good as this budget is, I think it's important that we signal the need for colleges and our system to be really prudent in the way we utilize the resources that ultimately come after the legislature passes the budget, so that we can try to restore some of the erosion and prepare for what is going to be a tremendous revenue drain in retirement. The other thing we have to be honest about is that this budget shows the dramatic volatility of California revenue. And so as it goes up like a rocket, it will ultimately go down like a lead balloon. And so at some point, especially if Prop 30 or something like that is not renewed, we are likely to see some dry years or lower years in the not too distant future. So I want to caution all of us as we talk about this budget to be mindful that we have some horrible deficiencies to make up and some huge clouds on the horizon.
Thank you, Chancellor. Are there any members of the public that want to address the board on this?
Yeah, we have two members of the public, Jonathan Leitner and Fabio Gonzalez. And you each have 3 minutes, please.
Thank you.
It's on.
Thank you, President Baum, Chancellor Harris, and members of the Board of Governors. Jonathan Leitman on behalf of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges. I think, like all of you, we at FAC want to commend the Governor for his support for community colleges and also recognize the hard work of Dan Troy and the tremendous staff here at the Chancellor's Office for helping lead this effort. I would say on behalf of FAC, I do want to point to two particular items that we are tremendously pleased over. First is the $75 million for full-time faculty. This has been a hard-fought battle. We do have to ensure that the language directs all of this money toward improving the ratio of full to part-time faculty in our colleges. As you know, we've been stuck at 56.14% over the past 2 years in credit classroom instruction, and that is unacceptably low. The other is the $141.7 million increase in the unallocated base increase, which gets us to some of that lost COLA that the Chancellor mentioned. The State Senate will be meeting today. Their analysis is up already. It's been posted. And I do want to note that they are proposing $34 million increase for the extended opportunities programs and services. This was something that was contained in our BCP. It's something that I would ask you, the board, to advocate for. $3.5 million for part-time office hours. There are some more minor adjustments in the part-time health benefits and equity line, but we cannot ignore the tremendous contribution as well as the undercompensation, underappreciation for our dedicated core of 40,000 part-time academic professionals. Finally, there is also a proposal for $200,000 to increase the budget of the State Academic Senate. There was a coalition letter of faculty and other groups that discuss the significant contribution the Academic Senate plays for the state, and we believe that this is an appropriate increase at that time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fabio Gonzalez.
Thank you. Good morning, President Baum, Chancellor Harris, and Board of Governors. First of all, I would like to let you know that this is my first year completing as president of this association for the California Community Colleges, EOPSA. And it's been a very, very interesting year. And one of the pinnacles of my experience, I think it happened yesterday, when you're testifying in front of this board and the governor is here, make sure he doesn't call you back into the room. Or the table. So in this case, I just wanted to thank everyone, Chancellor, Vice Chancellor Denise Nolden. Thank you for your leadership with student services. You've been helping us a lot, really trying to get us all together and work together in this year. And also to Dan Troy, I have learned a lot this year on regards to budget. I've been coming to these meetings for 3 years, and this is one of my first years. And for those of you who are brand new, welcome to the board. I think there's a lot of things that happen here. Amazing, great things are happening here within the community colleges, and your leadership is extremely important for our low-income first-generation students, which is the population that EOP&S pretty much serves. With regards to the governor's May revise, we're very, very thankful and grateful that COLA and also in reference to the SB 1023. And while we appreciate that, we have to acknowledge that our current funding does not allow us to function correctly. Our 1 year experience in trying to harness local dollars has demonstrated that this is not an effective way to funding a state program like EOP&S and CARE. We have gone through tremendous challenges locally to try to just get some dollars there. You have heard me before talk about how great our EOP&S program is, your program, how effective it is with low-income first-generation students, and I don't need to do that today. What I need you to do is to communicate that this should be funded in the 2015-2016 year with additional dollars in the May revise, especially $32 million for EOP&S and $8 million for CARE to allow us to do our job locally. Your support, you supported us at the beginning of this process. I am now calling upon you to support us at the end of the process when it really, really matters. We hope that through your leadership, our program can fully be restored and we can serve a lot more students in the years to come. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to open it up to the board for questions or comments. I'll start with one question, then two. One thing that was brought up to me was the issue of statewide enrollments, and overall they seem to be not increasing rapidly, and where do things fit with stabilization funding for districts who've actually experienced some declines in enrollment? I mean, the obvious case is San Francisco has obviously lost a lot, but I've heard other districts around the state are having trouble meeting their growth targets.
Well, there are definitely divergent trends in the state in terms of enrollment. We have, this would be a little too glib, but generally speaking in the north, I think we're seeing very slow enrollment, or in some cases flat or declining enrollment. And in many southern parts of our state, we're seeing very rapid enrollment. So areas like Orange County, Riverside, LA, San Diego, they're showing very robust growth. But we've got rural areas in the north that are in decline. We've got very slow to declining enrollment in the Bay Area, I think for a variety of demographic reasons. So it's certainly not a uniform trend across the state. I think, however, in a very good budget year like this, I think we have the opportunity to meet a variety of needs. We can meet the access where it is. We certainly want to serve the students who could benefit from our services wherever they are. But we also need to make sure that the budget is balanced so that everyone is able to get funds out of the budget to help support the students that they do have. And fortunately, I think this is a budget that is able to balance those priorities very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have a couple questions.
Member Avalos.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chancellor. When we talk about the $115 million for student equity plans and funding, you know, I think we've had a conversation around that in the past, that we want a little more data and a little more information on how that program is going when I talk about the student equity plans. Just because, you know, I'd like to, since it's an open, you know, budget, I want to see if there's movement on that. You know, it's kind of new. Plans were due, I think, at the beginning of the year. Have we seen, is there any preliminary data to see how effective that is? Do we have anything around that? Or are we looking towards having more discussion on how the equity plans and how that's shaping up?
Yeah, I'll ask Denise to chime in on the status of those reports, and then we'll talk about the accountability part of it.
Well, we completed a review of those plans just in May in order to get the college's feedback on their plans.
I don't think that's on.
So I think that the results will probably be forthcoming. The plans were just implemented, and just today I was talking to some folks from my the institution I previously served at, Contra Costa, and they're seeing really great gains. They did a lot around tutoring. And so I think that we have to sort of go a whole year, collect the data, and then compile it and present it. So I'm hoping that sometime in fall we will have an opportunity to compile results from those initiatives that really show great promise. And also the colleges then will be able to scale up the programs that show promise and maybe go in a different direction because what they predicted would work didn't work as well. So we have to give them enough time to implement the programs, collect the data, and report out. Some of it I know can be reported through MIS in terms of some of the indicators on our scorecard, and some of the other kinds of things would be self-reported information from the institutions as far as how those are going. But it does take time to scale the programs up and roll them out and collect data and be able to report out, especially in terms of long-term trends and gains.
And the reason why I ask it, another $115 million, right? I mean, that's a big investment again in this program. And the question around the formula mix that was allocated to each college, have we learned anything from that? I mean, is there any tweaks to that formula mix for next year? Have we talked about that at all?
Not so much just yet. We're still, again, getting word out to them about the plans that they submitted. So that's going to be all out to the colleges by the end of this month. And then they're gearing up. We have tweaked some of the allowable expenditures. Some of the things that we had previously thought would not be good ideas are now we're tweaking those and getting those out to the colleges. So they're going to actually do some plan revision because of SB 860 coming out after some of the plans were actually developed and board approved. So there'll be some major changes that need to be made, and there'll be some modifications. And so I think allowing some time for those things to take hold would be the best way to go to determine whether or not there's some information that we can share that really gives us really great sense of how well these efforts are going to be. So.
Well, thank you on that. I see we have 6 new positions for the Chancellor's Office. What are those 6 positions?
Well, it's, Dan, can you detail the specific positions?
Yes, I can. I hope I don't forget one on the fly here. But I think we'll have one for institutional effectiveness. We'll have one for student services, one for academic affairs, one for fiscal. I would have been happy with 3 to 5 for fiscal, but for the good of the cause, I'll say 1. We have one for apprenticeship, which got a $29 million increase in the January budget, so we'll need additional staffing to make that work. And I think the final position, I hope I haven't forgotten one, is for more administrative purposes, HR. For example, we're very short-staffed in that area relative to other agencies. So again, we've gone through a lot of transformational change in the state over the last few years. We've seen baccalaureate degrees, we've seen 1440 degrees, we've seen student success, student equity, a lot of changes to the system, and I think having support at the Chancellor's Office to be able to monitor that, provide guidelines, provide technical assistance to districts. We've been short-staffed to do that, and I would argue even after these 6 positions, we could still use more, but this is a good start.
I will say to the board that along with the 9 positions we were authorized for in the current year, assuming the budget passes and these are approved, that's almost a 10% staffing increase for the Chancellor's Office over the last 2 years, which, believe me, is, as Dan says, a much-needed addition. The other thing I wanted to say in response to your earlier question, Member Avalos, is that recall the board in last July set goals, and embedded in those were goals for closing performance gaps by race and ethnicity. And so the accountability system to track whether we're meeting those goals or not is in that scorecard. And yes, those plans are important, and we need to revise them. We need to get the programs implemented. But all that is really secondary to whether the numbers change or not. And that's what we as a organization that's on what we're really focused. We want to see overall completion and student success rise, but we also want to see those, as the board set those goals, we want to see those performance gaps closed.
I agree.
Other questions? Member Epstein?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. On the $75 million for more full-time faculty, how material is that? I mean, he gave a percentage of 56% are full-time. How much will that rise by?
I guess there's a couple of ways we could cut the numbers here. As you know, AB 1725, which was approved in 1988, set the goal, not the requirement, but set a goal for the system that 75% of our credit instruction would be performed by full-time faculty. Most recent data shows that we're at about 56%. So we're obviously falling short of that goal. Of course, part of that, the promise of AB 1725 would be that we would see our funding increase so that we would be able to support the increased cost of providing that full-time instruction. So generally speaking, our position over the years and discussion with the Consultation Council has been that we're happy to see increases in that full-time faculty. That's a great goal, but we do need the funding to do it. So we're very supportive of the governor's increase this year. To your point specifically, finance estimates that we'll hire about another 600 full-time faculty out of this. We currently have about 17,000 in the system. So we would be moving the needle a little bit slowly, but we would be going in the right direction.
A back of the envelope calculation would see that 56% rise to somewhere in the 61 or 2% range. Again, that's really back of the envelope because there's so many variables in that. But it could move that needle by somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 6%.
I haven't seen we used to get a chart annually that would show by district. And I'm very sympathetic to the comments that Jonathan Lightman made that you'd see some districts inexplicably are very far below this, not even close. They're below 50% in the full-time hiring number. And for years we've been told, oh, because it's the budget and financial issues. So I'm very supportive and encouraged by this move, and will be less hospitable to claims from local districts that, oh, we're having trouble meeting hiring targets and full-time obligation numbers because of budget issues. I know there's other issues with the recruitment faculty, but I strongly feel that a student is benefited by having a full-time instructor that they can also interact with both inside the classroom and outside the classroom, and that somebody who's part of that campus community. And I hope we make some real progress on that.
Great. And as you know, traditionally in November, we come to the board. The board is tasked with the decision as to whether there's enough funding in the budget to go forward with the full-time faculty obligation number the next year, and that is traditionally the time where we'll bring you the data so you can see the district percentage breakdown on that.
And I had another question too about the adult ed. Is that pretty much a fait accompli? Has leadership signed off on this change, or is there still an opportunity to kind of work with that?
I think it's fair to say that there are still opportunities. I think there are very different views among stakeholders in the Capitol as to what the right approach is. I think a lot of K-12 agencies like the way things used to work before, and would be happy to see all the dollars just go back to funding the adult education centers in the K-12 world as they were, and there's certainly that element advocating in the Capitol as we speak. So I don't think it's a fait accompli. I will say I do think this is a high-profile proposal by the governor. I would be surprised if the world is restored exactly the way it was before without some changes, but I don't think his proposal is a fait accompli.
I have one more question. Well, go ahead.
Vice President Estolano, then Member Avalos.
Very briefly on the estimate of 600 additional faculty positions, full-time faculty positions, it's probably worth noting this is a great opportunity to try to diversify the faculty. And it's been static for a while given all the budget constraints, but I know there's a lot of interest among faculty senate leaders to do that, and I think it's a great opportunity, and if there's anything we can do as the Board of Governors to encourage that activity, we'd like to do that. We need to have our faculty look a lot like the students, and never compromising in the quality of instruction and the quality of the candidates. And I think we have an opportunity. We are graduating folks from programs from diverse communities, and this is a great chance to get them into our system to become the next leaders of the system.
I think that's a great point, and we are talking internally in our office about ways that we can encourage that diversity of hiring that you talked about. We could perhaps through the institutional effectiveness initiative and through the bully pulpit and other ways, we're also interested in attaining that kind of diversity.
Member Avalos?
Yeah, thank you. So I see here there's $60 million for one-time funds for the basic skills and student outcome transformation programs. What role do we have at the Chancellor's office as we talk about transformation programs. What are they and what are we doing there?
Well, we have part of our student success initiative is basic skills component, and as the board will recall a few months back, you got a huge compendium of the best practices we pulled to the fore and are now trying to disseminate to the community. You're going to hear a report a little bit later this morning on online professional development activities that get at the heart of that point. This particular proposal is based on a piece of legislation that's working its way through, and the troubling thing I think for most of us is that it is, at this point at least, one-time only money. And so, to be honest with you, I'd prefer to have half that money continuing as opposed to a huge influx of one-time only money, because basic skills work is ongoing work. It's not something you can buy a piece of equipment and fix. So we have, as part of the Student Success Initiative, really are trying to ramp that up, and there's some tremendously successful programs that are going on at the colleges, and the trick now is to transfer those from a few hundred students to hundreds of thousands of students.
And where does that sit? What department within the Chancellor's office?
The Institutional Effectiveness Unit and the
under
Student Success Initiative that you're going to hear about a little bit more this morning.
Member Core?
Thank you. So I know they had a huge increase for full-time faculty. Was there anything about, like, where will part-time faculty fall under this? I know a lot of students are looking to have part-time faculty have office hours or like increase in that aspect. So where would that fall under?
The governor's May revision does not propose any increases to those areas. As Mr. Lightman spoke to earlier, our office is supportive of increasing funds for the part-time categorical programs, which include office hours, which include compensation, which includes health insurance support for our part-time faculty. So we'll be working with the legislature to find ways to do that over the coming weeks.
Okay.
Member Van Loon?
Yes, I was wondering if you could give some additional details regarding the proposed pilot program for the collaboration between the CSU and our system regarding basic skills. There's $2 million allocated for it. I was just wondering if details have been solidified for how, one, who's going to allocate those funds, how they're going to be allocated, and what the pilot program entails.
Yeah, it's a new proposal to us too, so I think there's a lot of details to work out if indeed it is approved in the final budget. I think the concept is to provide grants to community college districts, so the dollars would go to community college districts in a grant form to certain districts to implement strategies with neighboring CSU campuses to provide remediation to incoming CSU freshmen. So as you know, I believe 60 or 70% of incoming CSU freshmen are in need of remediation in either math or English. And I think the governor is interested in seeing where community colleges play a role in helping get those students prepared when they hit the ground running as freshmen on the CSU campus. So we do have some questions about the proposal. Is it an appropriate use of Proposition 98 to have community colleges serve the CSU students? And again, you might say with $2 million, well, maybe that's not much to complain about, but a pilot program is meant to expand over time. Does the $2 million become 20? Does it become 50? Does it become 100? So I think that's something that we're going to have to take a close look at going forward.
And please provide the details once they start unraveling.
Okay, thanks.
Well, Member Belinsky.
Just a question on the adult education piece and just reading it now. I assume that this means the state chancellor and the state superintendent in terms of making changes. And has this gone out to the field yet? Because as I do a quick read, it sounds like major changes to what's been going on for like a year, almost 2 years. And that hasn't gone very far, in my opinion, in some consortium. So now we're going to go through this.
No question that these are major changes, and we're trying to do what we can to communicate. Obviously, the time frame is very, very short. By the time we get information out to the field, the budget may change the details we just communicated. So we're trying to do what we can in this short time frame to get the information out there. But at core, I agree with your comments that we've had 2 years of AB 86 of local planning that has gone on in preparation for how to spend this 500 million at the local level when it does come down, and to change some of the rules of that game right now may lead to very different expenditures than had been planned for.
Member
Sorry,
Epstein.
and just to beat this to death, who authored AB 86, and are they still around and to defend their work?
I don't remember who the author was of AB 86.
AB 86.
Ron, do you know who did AB 86?
It was a budget committee bill. Okay.
So there's no pride of authorship for somebody.
I presume it was. I think it was by and large the governor's proposal, the elements of the governor's proposal that the legislature was willing to live with at that point.
Well, I was just realizing it was maybe it wasn't coincidence that the governor appointed Member Conway to our board. Then, and a couple weeks later, he adds $1 billion to the budget, and then a week later, he comes to our board meeting. So I think that.
I did not offer that.
No, but what it does reflect is actually in the last year, you see the faith that the governor has placed in this system, both in the system leadership, but also the appointments he's made to the board, and then that's reflected in the budget proposal that he's making here. And however, I do want to caution that with increased resources is going to be increased scrutiny and increased accountability. So I'm grateful for Vice Chancellor Tenya's efforts and the Chancellor's leadership and institutional effectiveness, and that we can continue to be a model of transparency, but also accountability, making available as much data about our programs and our performance based on these resources online and accessible both to the legislators and the public, and that we continue that tradition so that and willing to show even the areas where we're not performing and be candid about those and working toward that, but to continue that relationship of trust and faith that has been placed in the system. So thank you very much. Thank you. Now, are we ready for?
We have a little setup to do, so we can take a break, or we can just it'll just take a couple of minutes. To
Okay, they need to set up the next item, which is the task force on workforce job creation and strong economy. So this will be a no more than 5-minute break. So don't go far.